We're going to be recording the first part of this, and then the second part where we go into our breakout rooms, we are going to stop the recording so everyone feels comfortable talking and sharing and just learning with everyone. So my name is Carolyn, and I'm here with Curio 412. I want to thank you all for being here this afternoon. We're talking about supporting local organizations today, whether that's a small business or a nonprofit or a community group. And I'm here with a few members of the Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber who have graciously partnered with me on this session. I am going to share my screen, but before I do that, I want all of the partners who are with us from Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber to have a chance to introduce themselves and say hello to everyone who's on the call today. So Jim, do we want to start with you?
I'd be happy to. Well, first of all, Carolyn, thank you very much for making us a part of this. We really appreciate that. I am Jim Bolts. I'm president of the Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber. Heather, why don't you go next?
Sure. My name is Heather Schwartzbauer, and I am the membership and digital media coordinator for the Chamber.
And I'm Beth Machine. I'm the executive assistant, and I also work with our student programs.
And we also have Annie Carnes, who probably is going to be joining us very soon too to get on the call. And she is our director of events and marketing.
Awesome. Great. Thank you guys all for being here. It's been wonderful to work with the Chamber. We are going to now share the screen so that you're able to see the presentation portion of this, and we'll go ahead and get started. So today we're talking about strategies and tools and tips for supporting local organizations. I think there's a lot of different ways that nonprofits and small businesses can all work together, and we're all going through the same thing. So there's a lot of different things that we can consider as we move forward, but great to get everyone together and have sort of a collaborative discussion about it. The partners for the sessions and the virtual roundtables that we've had, this is number 4 of a series of 6 roundtables. And we've been working with the North Regional Chamber, Alliance for Response, Your Hangout Spot, AE Works, and the Heinz History Center Affiliates Program. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of our partners for making this such a great series. As I said before, I'm Carolyn Keller, and I am the founder of Curio 412. I have a background in nonprofits mostly, but I've also worked with foundations and small businesses as well. Right now, I currently manage an organization that has over 100 institutional members and many more individual members. And we do the best we can to support those members in a lot of different ways. And so in bringing this session to you today, I'd really like to take a moment to think about how we best support everyone in the community and the organizations that we know are under a little bit of stress right now. We're using Zoom today. You're all muted as you came in, but at the end of this session, we're going to have a virtual breakout. So we'll have a brief period of probably 30 to 40 minutes where Jim and myself and others from the Regional Chamber will be talking about different ways you can support local organizations. And at the end, we'll leave the remaining 20 minutes for you all to talk. So we'll put you into small breakout rooms and let you really discuss with your colleagues some of the challenges you're going through, and then you can think up some ways to tackle the challenges that we're all dealing with. Once we get to that portion, right before, we'll do a question answer session just to make sure that there aren't any outstanding questions. And once we get into those—
Governor Wolf announced that the schools are closed for the rest.
Feel free to use your mute or unmute button to talk with your colleagues when you're in those breakout sessions. And you can also feel free to share your video too. So I'm going to turn it over to Jim. I think this is you, right, to tell us a little bit more about the Regional Chamber, since I've just given you an introduction to Curio 412.
Yeah, thank you very much. The Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber, we have 1,000 members. We stretch from McKnight Road corridor up through Cranberry Township, over to the Beaver County line, over to Route 8 in going towards Butler. We're blessed to be in an area that's growing very, very quickly, and there's a lot of positive things going on. We merged our chambers 10 years ago when we were the Cranberry Area Chamber and the Northern Allegheny Chamber to go together and make one of the largest chambers in the area. Our membership really goes from small business and actually sole proprietors all the way up to multinational corporations. And we offer a variety of different things for our members. We have social networking events, we have programs, training, legislative and economic development activities, and many more activities or things that you can take advantage of by being a member of our chamber.
Yeah, and adding on to that, I had my first interactions with the chamber on the board of the Pittsburgh Philharmonic, which is a nonprofit that the chamber also serves nonprofits in a variety of different ways. And even though we're different from a traditional business that's in the chamber, we still love going and being able to network. It's a great way to learn about sponsorship opportunities and a great way to really engage with people on another level. As an orchestra, we like going because we are able to have outreach for some of the patrons that come to see our shows, but there's a number of different ways that the chamber is really a benefit to both nonprofits as well as small businesses. So I always like to tell people about how much that has done for our organization too.
Thanks, Carolyn. And you know, one fun fact is nonprofits are actually the second biggest category of our members. So we have a lot of nonprofits that are in our chamber.
So our agenda for today, we're going to briefly touch on resources and relief. We know a lot of you have been getting overwhelmed with information about resources and relief. So we'll mention some resources that are a little bit different than probably the things that you've been hearing. We'll also talk about how to stay connected to your patrons and how to support small businesses and organizations within your own communities. So to start us off, we've pulled together resources of relief of things that you just should be thinking about when you think about what your organization needs. So communicating with all of your stakeholders is extremely important. I'm sure there's a lot of different people that you're dealing with between your patrons and your funders. And so you want to make sure you reach out to all of them. If you have lending institutions, and you'll need to get in touch with those institutions to see what kinds of programs you apply for and or are eligible for. You'll also want to talk to your CPA and accounting firms, people who work with your financials of your institution. Many firms are offering different types of tax credit advice, so make sure to be in touch with them on an individual basis to really learn more. And then lastly, I have the legal counsel too. I know that an organization I work with, we're currently in touch because we didn't have any sort of contingency or emergency management plans. And we worked with our legal team to put those together. You don't necessarily need a team for an emergency management plan on the legal end of things, but there are some things that you might consider if you want to make changes to your bylaws or other types of legal protections. Also to understand your contracts. I know the last group that we had together about events planning, we talked a lot about putting some clauses into your contracts to make sure pandemics are covered and other types of events that you're going to want to plan for. So make sure you're touching base with all of the different people to help keep yourselves covered. There's a lot of resources under the Senate Small Business Committee Guide. The Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber has a group that has been posting resources about a number of different items that are beneficial to organizations. And then there are also employer resources on the MBA USA site as well. And all of this information, as always, we are recording the first half. The recording will be here, the slides will be here, and we'll also have a page full of resources that you can come back to. We'll have all of that in a follow-up email by the end of this week to everyone. Some other resources that have been immensely valuable to me in finding information are the Allegheny Conference on Community Development site and the University of Pittsburgh's Institute for Entrepreneurial Excellence. The Allegheny Conference on Community Development is giving daily COVID-19 updates about what's going on in the city. It also has resources for businesses as well as community leadership resources, and those have been really great to keep up with. Institute for Entrepreneurial Excellence has a lot of the financial and business development and consulting types of services that you would see. They had a really great webinar about financial loans that is still available and on demand that you can find. So those two websites, really great information. Another thing that I've been finding there are some private company grants that are available through Amazon, Facebook, and there are even some private industry relief funds for things like food and beverage industry and restaurant workers. I also heard recently that Yelp has teamed up with GoFundMe so that if you have a small business or organization that is on Yelp, Yelp and GoFundMe have pledged to match up to $1 million in donations. So if you are an eligible business and able to raise $500, that may be matched by GoFundMe. So there's a number of different opportunities that these private companies are reaching out and doing their best to support small businesses and organizations. There's also some operational resources that you might need. So if you're a small business or a small nonprofit that has some sort of gift store and you're looking to figure out how to sell gift certificates online, Cabbage is a really great app that you can use to do online gift cards and sort of keep people who are able to continue to consume able to keep up with your organization and still support your organization. Also, if you need to do things like sign legal documents or have e-signatures going back and forth, or things that you can't do in person that you would like to do online, PandaDoc is a free source that will help you to use that e-signature. And I'm not going to touch too hard on the two at the bottom, Microsoft Teams and Zoom. We covered these in our first webinar, and I know many of you attended that as well, but tools for remote working in terms of virtual collaboration and having people in chat rooms like we do now, there are some really great resources for you and your team to collaborate too. The next thing I want to talk about, and I'll turn it over to Jim in a couple minutes, is connecting to a supporting network. There's a lot of organizations that are working internally and need to reach externally too to some of their colleagues. And so joining a network is a great way to still be able to connect and share resources. There's a few that I found to be pretty useful, and one is the Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber's community resource page, which is open to everyone. You don't have to be a member, and it's a wealth of resources. Then there's also the Pittsburgh Quarantine Takeout Delivery if you're looking for food and a way to support local restaurants and food and beverage industry workers during this time. And there's also the Allegheny County Resources and Support Amid COVID-19 group. That group is posting daily opportunities, whether that's in the community or in business. And I'm going to turn it over to Jim to talk a little bit more about the types of things that have been in that community support group on their site.
I'm actually going to turn that over to Heather. She knows it very intimately and really is the master of it. So Heather, why don't you take it away?
Sure, thank you so much. This was one of the first initiatives that the Chamber took immediately following the news, is to try to put together a Facebook group. We really feel our strength lies in being able to connect the community with our Chamber members, with resources that are out there, with needs that our nonprofit has. So we created that group really just as a platform for people to come together and share needs, whether they have those needs or they know an organization that has those needs. We've really tried to do a lot with helping to support our restaurants and other small businesses on there. So I really encourage you to take a look at it, share your business information, share others' business information. But that was one of our first initiatives that we took to try to just bridge the gap between those who need and those who have and want to support.
And if I can add to it, it's a very active page. I think we average over 50 posts a day. Again, it's open to anybody. We get a lot of posts from businesses, restaurants, sharing menus, specials, different things that are happening in the community. A lot of the ways that other groups are reaching out to support local businesses and counterparts. So it really is a good page for a lot of information that you can see and also share with our participants.
Yeah. There's a number of ways that I've seen the Chamber's page active in supporting essential businesses and vulnerable populations, and it's been really great to see that come across, primarily on that Facebook page that the Chamber has. I know that they've coordinated lunches and coffees for first responders. There's things that you can do like virtual visits with those with limited mobility. I've heard of a program where you can adopt an elderly person who is in isolation right now in different types of senior living facilities, and just keeping those people engaged and interacted with as well. There's also places that need equipment, and there's places that donate equipment. And something that I think is always just good to remember is to be patient and kind with the people who are working in those essential businesses, as well as with anyone else who is going through this type of event. And Jim, you can let me know who's best to talk about that initiative that you had for coordinating lunches and coffees and ways to support first responders.
Sure. Well, I'll start it out. We put it out. We want to support our restaurants. We also want to support a lot of the nonprofits that are actually out there and working hard right now. And so we ask a lot of our members and participants on the page, would anyone like to support and sponsor a lunch for our nonprofit brethren? And we got a lot of takers, and we also got a lot of volunteers, and we were able to go to restaurants, have them provide a lunch. We bought the lunch from them because it was sponsored, delivered it to the nonprofits, and it was it's a very active program. If anybody's interested, they can contact us, myself, and my email is jbolts@pghnorthchamber.com, or Annie Carnes, ACAIRNS@pghnorth.com, and we'll be happy to coordinate that. One of the biggest contributors was Monticello's. They did something on their own. They donated pizzas to our to first responders, and we were able to deliver pizzas to a number of our first responders in the Cranberry area, the North Hills area. So it was just a very, very rewarding, it's a very rewarding program.
That's great. Would someone from the chamber be able to put those emails in the chat too? Oh, perfect. Thank you, Annie. Awesome. The next thing we wanted to talk about was staying connected. And I think that's something that all of us are dealing with right now, is figuring out the best ways to stay connected with the audiences that we have, whether those are patrons that purchase from small businesses or attend events or come to our physical locations. I think we've stressed this in pretty much every single webinar we've had, is just communicating to all of those different people in as many ways as you can, and as many ways as makes sense for the demographics that you have. Offering different types of options. So I know that a lot of food and beverage businesses have been offering delivery and pickup options. A lot of grocery stores have been offering those types of options. Maybe there's something that your organization can do that is within that type of realm, where instead of someone necessarily coming and engaging in the way they normally do, engaging in a different way. When we did our events webinar, we talked a lot about being able to offer something, even if it's a virtual event. And I think that that's where it's really an opportunity to be creative. The other things you can do, and we did discuss this at our events webinar, is hosting those virtual events and making them engaging in different ways, trying to figure out how you can still best serve. I know that there's a few cultural organizations that have been on these calls that are still hosting either virtual opportunities to still have talks and discussions and ways that they can still interact with those patrons, even though they can't physically be with them. And so it's just great to be able to still have that connection. Another thing that is, I think, critical at this time is collaborating with other local organizations, whether that is a business and a nonprofit or two nonprofits, really trying to find different ways to engage, because then, and it's always, I think collaboration is always something we strive for too, just because you're able to diversify audience so much. I had told a story at one of our previous virtual roundtables about the Baltimore Museum of Industry, who partnered with the first responders in the area to do COVID-19 testing in their parking lot. And just a great way to be able to collaborate, help what's going on right now, but also possibly attract new visitors once this type of situation we're in right now dies down. The other thing that I think is very important is to celebrate the little things. I think we have a lot of things right now that we're uncertain about, and a lot of things that we're not sure when we're going to be able to be back to our normal routines, and what's going to change even when we do get back to those normal routines. And so celebrating the things that we are accomplishing right now, and really being proud of what we're able to do, is a way to keep us all engaged and proud of what our missions are still accomplishing. I know that one of the ways that I've seen that best done is by participating in opportunities to share either on social media or through other virtual discussion groups such as the one we have today. The North Regional Chamber has established some daily themes that they're following, and that's really helped to focus a lot of the posts that we've seen and a lot of the ways that people collaborate. So I'm going to let them talk a little bit more about what they've been doing with those themes and how that's worked for their members.
And I think Annie's going to walk us through that.
Yeah, so, you know, you pretty much hit the nail on the head there as far as what Heather and Jim had already mentioned. With our COVID-19 Facebook group, we have about 50 posts probably a day being shared with anybody that's, you know, in that group. So with that being said, it's sort of become, you know, a little bit difficult to keep up with it, not only from the chamber side, but even if you're a member in that group, just there's so much information to sort of go through. So we just sort of came up with this daily themes idea where we can consolidate all of that information. And, you know, for instance, health and wellness, motivational Monday, tech and takeout Tuesday. So every other Tuesday, we're sort of switching off and on between, you know, promoting the restaurants in our area that are doing takeout. And then, you know, the next Tuesday we'll be doing like tech information, since that's become such a large portion of our everyday lives. HR Wednesday, so getting experts in that field of human resources and doing Facebook Lives, just to go over all of the information that's being thrown at us. You know, we receive information from the US Chamber, the PA Chamber, and then everything that's coming in through the CDC. So how that is actually affecting our businesses, both on the HR side and financial side, which goes into Finance and Tax Thursday. Like today, you know, we've been bringing in people, experts in the banking industry, just filing all of those loan documents and everything that goes with it. And then lastly, Fun and Family Friday. So we can't forget about sharing good news as well. So celebrating the little things, as you mentioned, you know, that would go in the Friday bucket for sure. So yeah, anybody that has any good news to share, because I feel like we're just being, you know, pummeled with all of this negative, bad news and everything every day of the week. So hopefully that becomes more of a trend online where people are sharing more good news these days. But yeah, that's basically our daily themes, and we're trying to do that just to consolidate all of this super helpful information that we've been throwing out there, just because it kind of keeps getting buried. But yeah.
Thanks, Annie. And Carolyn, before we leave this slide, I just wanted to also mention one of the points is collaborate with other local organizations. And we realize that everybody's inbox now is probably has 5 times the amount of emails in it that it did 1 month ago. There's so much information being shared. There's so much of it that is redundant. And we felt that we could really improve the message if we try to work with other organizations and consolidate a lot of the things that we said, a lot of the common things that we said. So right now we are putting together a group with the Butler County Chamber, the Beaver County Chamber, Butler County Tourism Group, Butler County CDC, really to consolidate our message, to have a stronger message and to reach more people. So look for that. Hopefully that will get up and running next week, and you'll see a lot more about it when we have that done.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. And a lot of the collaborative resources is great to be able to go and find everything and see everything, see what people are doing, see what opportunities might be out there, but also taking ideas from what you see. So perhaps your organization could institute some daily themes and put out content that has something to do with those daily themes within the mission of your organization, and really make that something that's engaging for the people who are interacting and patrons of your organization. So I know that we discussed this at our Tuesday session, but I thought it was very important to bring it back again. We talked a little bit about Impacts, which is a research facility that is currently publishing data about 2 times a week about what's going on with this global pandemic. They have been studying intent to visit, primarily for cultural organizations such as museums, aquariums, zoos, and they've published data about intent to visit as well as what will make people feel safe again. For their intent to visit, it is constantly changing and they update it every week. So I encourage everyone to go to their site, which will be linked in the resources, and just keep up to date with what's going on. But as of right now, what they're finding is, and they do intent to research and have been for the past few years, and what they found is that intent to visit maybe over the next few weeks to months is obviously different because there's different constraints that we have on access to a lot of the things we're normally used to. But within the 3 to 6 months mark, intent to visit hasn't changed all that much. And so this is obviously a moving target for all our organizations as we're responding to this changing situation. But it's somewhat good to know that people are still intending 3 to 6 months out to be back to business as usual in one form or another. I think there's a lot of things that will change following the situation we're currently in now, but nice to know that those intentions are still there. There's also things that we can do that will help to make people feel safe again once people are through this finite time period and ready to come back out. So the data that Impacts gathered about making people feel safe was what will it take to make you feel safe and comfortable visiting a cultural institution again. And I'd imagine a lot of these would transfer forward to small businesses and other types of organizations as well. And top was vaccine availability and access to government restrictions. And those kind of go hand in hand. There's not much we can do about those 2 things other than wait and watch and make sure that we're keeping up to date with the latest things from the CDC. But there's some things that we can do. On the upper end of that too was also seeing others visit, the availability of hand sanitizer, organizations choosing to reopen. And then 1 in 5 people said that they already feel safe and comfortable visiting those different institutions that they're already planning to visit in the future. So that's good information in a lot of different ways because we can plan for this. Whether it's 3 or 6 months out from now, we can plan the different types of trajectories we want for our businesses and small organizations. Your patrons have probably been with you for a while because they trust you and they are involved and invested in your messaging. So you choosing to reopen based on the recommendations that you're receiving is something that they are going to trust as well. And when you do reopen, you can cultivate that perception of it being a safe space. So sharing stories, sharing memories of people visiting on social media. So if someone comes in and has a really great experience, that can do a world of difference to cultivate that word of mouth endorsements that you're looking for to make people feel safe once they're feeling like they want to come back out again. And also having hand sanitizer available if possible. I know that I saw something come across my email this morning that was from a company called Successories, and they provide things for conferences and for other organizations just as little giveaway items. And one of the things they're heavily pushing right now is their hand sanitizer, and it's all branded different types of hand sanitizers. And so people are already thinking about how they can use that as a way to make people feel comfortable. And then lastly, just knowing that your audience cares least about your full cleaning procedure. Your audiences are going to really respond to the things that are going to make them feel safe. And that doesn't necessarily include a step-by-step of how things are being sanitized and washed down in order to be protected, even though that is an important thing to have in place. Maybe not the thing that's going to be first on your audience's mind for getting them to come back in and feel safe and engaged again. So supporting your neighbors is also extremely important. Leaving reviews for your favorite organization, if you are able to, shopping early, calling out and letting people know that your favorite organization or local business is still going on and still doing things, and encouraging other people who have the means to be able to support local businesses to do that with the businesses that and nonprofits and organizations that you love, and even just writing a thank you note, sending something that lets a organization know that you really appreciate the measures that they're taking and the messaging that they have. And I'm going to turn it over to the Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber to talk a little bit about how they've been doing this and how they've seen this in their chamber members.
Sure. Thank you, Carolyn. One thing I really want to emphasize right now is there's a lot of reasons why it's important we support small business right now. They're the backbone of our communities. Anybody that's ever been a part of a booster club or any kind of organization, we reach out first to the small businesses for their support. Small businesses donate gift baskets, they donate their time, they give us gift cards, they give us a reduction in the cost of their services. There's just so many ways that they really support us and really try to help the communities and all the things that the communities have going on. And not only that, on top of that, they employ most of the people in your community, your neighbors, and the owners of these shops are probably your neighbors and the people that you know. So it's really important right now that we support them, because when this is all over, we want them to be there. And so it's our turn to really turn it around and pledge our support to them. With that, I'm going to turn over the Christmas in April to Annie.
Hi there. Yeah, so like Jim said, we just want the businesses to come out of this as best as they can. So with that being said, we're starting sort of an initiative here. Obviously, everyone here has heard of Christmas in July. So basically what we're doing is we're trying to promote people to maybe start their purchases a little bit early in the month of April to help out these local businesses who are sort of financially suffering, just to make sure that they can come out of this. Purchasing gift cards, gift certificates, ordering things online. For me personally, I sort of do my Christmas shopping all year round. So if I see something for somebody, I like to make more of a meaningful purchase. So just to encourage people to support those businesses, Christmas in April starts the day after Easter, so April 13th, and it'll go until April 30th. And then as far as the chamber goes, you can follow our Facebook page and our Facebook group starting on Monday if you haven't already been following, just to get more details and information about the Christmas in April initiative. So it's pretty straightforward, just trying to shift the marketing from Christmas in April or Christmas in July to Christmas in April. So.
Right. Thanks, Annie. And also don't forget our nonprofit friends. They're suffering right now too, because a lot of their normal way of life has changed. A lot of them need volunteers right now. So of course, obeying all social distancing guidelines, but you could reach out and really help some of our nonprofits because they need your help now too.
Definitely. Thanks, Jim. The Chamber's put together this infographic that just has ways to support local businesses, can also be used for organizations. But just some of the things we've talked about, keeping subscriptions or memberships, giving the gift of your business in one way or another, and buying now. So I think the one thing Jim and I had talked about was making sure to be sensitive to that everyone is suffering right now in one way or another, and encouraging people who have the means to be able to do it, because we know that there's some people that don't have the means right now but would still like to be supportive in some way. So thinking about that as well, and how to make that work for all of the different audiences and patrons that you have. So with that, we're going to turn it over, ask if there's any questions, and we're going to move into the virtual roundtable session where we're going to break into small groups. We do, as a reminder, have 2 more sessions, which are next week, Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday at 11, Thursday at 1. Tuesday session is about assessing and responding to financial risk, and we will have a slightly different setup than the one we've done previously with all of the rest of these roundtables. We are going to have more of a Q&A session with a few financial experts in the field of insurance, bookkeeping, and financial reporting, as well as commercial lending. So you'll be able to answer all of those questions, because we know at this time you're probably looking into a lot of the different PPP and other types of financial resources that you'll have. And then our last session is about community resilience and philanthropic response. We've got some great partners for that as well, and are really going to talk a lot about how to make your organization more resilient for the future. So our information is here, and I'll open it up to any questions. I'm going to stop the screen share so that you can feel free to unmute yourself and just ask your questions at this time.
So I might make a comment, or I have a question. For say a smaller historical society in Somerset or Westmoreland County or library, how and why would they, how would they reach out to their respective chamber, and why would they do so? What are some of the benefits of partnering with the chamber? What would some of those benefits be?
Well, I think one of the big things is the chamber can connect them to a lot of sources that they could use, a lot of sources that could give them not only financial support, but volunteer support, different ways like that. As I stated one time earlier in this presentation, that sector is our second largest category of members. We have over 50 some, close to 60 some members that are nonprofits. I think there is a Somerset Chamber of Commerce, but I think that what they would want to do is just reach out to them and really start to get involved. They'll also be able to get them connected and be a part of a network with a lot of other businesses that that can help support them.
I know for the nonprofit that I'm involved with that is a part of the Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber, we are able to be put in touch with financial professionals. Sometimes we've been able to get pro bono support for the different things we've been doing. And then like Jim said, I know that, and you can, I don't remember the exact title, but I know that the chamber does sort of an annual giving also as part of their mission to serve some of the nonprofits. So there's a lot of different benefits that we've being part.
Yeah, we do it in a couple different ways, Carolyn. We have days of caring where we'll take and choose a particular nonprofit, and we'll coordinate a group to go out and help that nonprofit. Usually it's in things that they need done that maybe isn't quite part of their mission, but they need help in getting them done. We've gone and cleaned up ground, their grounds and their areas where their buildings are in that. We've done painting, we've done other different things like that. We've also helped them in their campaigns. And one of the programs that we have that Carolyn was alluding to is every Christmas we have, we call it the Giving Tree. And we collect gifts for people who are served by our charities. And we have 7 or 8 charities every year that we pick at least minimally. And we've been able to collect for the last 5 years, every single year, over 500 gifts that are targeted specifically for those people. So there's a lot of different ways that a chamber can help. And I think what they would find is the chambers want to help. The chamber members want to help. They are, again, they realize that it's all in the community effort, and it's things that they want to do to support the community.
If I
Thank
could
you.
just add quickly, I'm Stephanie, I'm new to the group, and Jim, I wanted to personally just say thank you for talking about the chamber and all of your staff being here today, because I live in Gibsonia with my husband. We've been here for about 4 years now, and just March 1st of this year, I launched a new nonprofit. Interesting time, right? I spent the past 8 years building a community for young adults with cancer, and that's those who are diagnosed between 18 and 40, through another nonprofit, and it just became so big that I decided that it needed its own entity and visibility. So I'm happy to elaborate on that for anyone who's interested. But why I joined today was, obviously I'm a local organization, very brand new in the game of wearing my hat as president and founder of an organization. And so I'm very much interested in learning more about the chamber and getting involved and determining if it would be me or someone maybe on my board. But if I had questions more about that, should I contact you, Jim, or someone else?
No, absolutely. Contact me. Be happy to help you. I mean, we're a very active chamber. Obviously, right now, most of our activity is online and digital type activity, but we have a lot of different ways right now that we try to connect people. But then once we get back to some kind of normalcy, you'll see that we have we have a lot of events. We have over 200 a year, actually, if you can believe it. We have a lot of free events that we run every single week. And so we do a lot of different things to try to connect, but sure, reach out to me, Stephanie. I think that, well, my email is jbolts@pghnorthchamber.com. There,
Okay,
and
I
you
see
just
it
put
there.
it up.
Okay. Yeah, the organization's called Young Adult Survivors
Thank you.
United for anyone who needs it. So the website's yasurvivors.org, pretty simple. And Carolyn, just real quick, thank you for what you've created. Otherwise, this wouldn't have given me an opportunity to join. So I just want to say thank you.
No, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
All right, any other questions before we move into the roundtable section? All right, I'm going to stop the recording right now and we'll get everyone into breakout rooms. The way that this ends up working is I will start the breakout rooms.